I'm just going to tell you a bit about me, and then we're going to deal with 5 top tips, the ones that have worked best for me and my students in class to get everybody engaged, everybody involved, everybody making progress like the session says. And then we'll just finish with a wrap up, quick sort of takeaway messages and any questions you may have. Okay, so feel free to write in the chat. Some of the activities will require you to do so, but if you have any other questions, yeah, feel free to ask them. So here we go. I think Nathan already mentioned this. Here's my Bitmoji. We were joking with Daria, one of the organizers, that I'm a big fan of Bitmojis. I'm not wearing my glasses today, but my Bitmoji does have them. Like Nathan said, I'm a secondary English teacher here in Barcelona in a regular secondary school, but I'm also a teacher trainer. I occasionally write materials as well. And I'm also the president of APAC, which is the English Teachers Association in Catalonia, here, the place in Spain where we're at. And so it's a pleasure to be here today to try and help you out with dealing with your teenagers, which I think will be pretty universal, just like mine. So somebody's saying, hi from Dammam. Wow. Hi. Hi, everyone. Hello from Vilnius, Georgia. Wow, I feel like I'm traveling the world with this session. Thanks so much for being here. All right, so without further ado, let's get on with the main core of the presentation, which is the 5 top tips to get students engaged. And the first one is provide step-by-step instructions. I know this may sound very obvious. Oh, hi from Cambodia. Well, I've never been to Cambodia, but I hear it's really beautiful. Okay. Ljubljana, Poland. Wow. Well, I'm getting really, right, Uzbekistan as well, Turkey, yeah, hi. In any case, the first top tip is this, give step-by-step instructions, see how you feel about this. How can everyone relate to this 2 memes? Teacher giving instructions basically to a brick wall, or the second meme with Steve Carell, when you explain everything in detail, you give instructions, you have instructions online and on the board, and you ask any questions. Nobody says anything, nobody raises their hand. And then once you say, okay, so there you go, you can get started. Students say, I don't understand anything. What do we have to do? What did you say? What was the task? And so who could relate to that? Show your answers type your answers in the chat. Some people are saying every teacher, I guess. Yeah, I think this is pretty universal, right? It depends on how clear your instructions are, okay? If they're presented in a step-by-step manner, indeed. Okay, Tomas is saying it happens. Madeleine is saying true, both situations. Okay. I mean, I obviously try to give as clear instructions as possible. And in my head, Janine is saying, sounds so familiar. Okay. I mean, in my head, the instructions I give are crystal clear, and I try to make them as accessible as possible. But then seeing some of the students' reactions, I wonder, okay, what did I not say? What did I do wrong? What do I need to clarify? Okay, Daphne is saying, I always tell my teacher techniques, the golden rule. Okay, when your students say, I understand, ask, okay, what do you understand? Exactly. Teacher's saying, oh, Bruno's saying, give instructions, modeling, exactly. Yeah, it's true that asking, do you understand, does not really help, because most students are going to say yes, even if they don't understand. So you might want to refine your question to the technique here too. And you might ask students to reword what you've said, to repeat what you've said, maybe to translate it. Exactly. Anna's saying, I don't use, do you understand? Exactly. So any case, this was just to get you started. But obviously, asking the right questions is key too. So not only check understanding, confirm by having them repeated, exactly what even doing one, modeling, translating in your own language. Okay, you're clearly very experienced teachers. So let me just show you one of the things that works best with my students, and this is icons. Obviously, this is linked to UDL, Universal Design for Learning, because we're trying to make our materials and our instructions as accessible as possible. So not only have the writing instructions, have the written instructions here, but also, for example, have keywords in bold. I think this really helps to make instructions a lot more clear. And also have these icons. These are just some examples of the icons I use. And if you just look at the little drawings, my students call them dibujitos in Spanish, dibuchettes. little drawings. If you look at the little drawings, they're actually quite self-explanatory. So if you see a bunch of people, okay, this means you have to do this task in groups. If you see the pencil, it's because you have to write. Or if you see this icon, this is a bit of a specific icon. This is a group dynamics we call expert groups. So you regroup with new classmates. Here, this is basically talk, speak, discuss. So even if students don't read the instructions, because surprise, surprise, they sometimes don't read the instructions you project or you tell them, or they don't listen. When they see the little icons, they'll definitely be able to understand, at least get the gist of what you're asking them to do. I use a set of icons. I try to use the same set of icons throughout the year. And this is a summary of the ones I use. So individual, in pairs, in groups. This one is very useful. It means optional or extension. So not everybody has to do this. Talk to your partner or discuss with your group or think, create a mind map. Obviously, not all of them appear in all the instructions, but they appear throughout the year. And once the students are familiar with this, this saves me a lot of time. It saves me a lot of trouble, and it saves them a lot of frustration for not being able to understand. So I think this really helps. I got all these icons from thenounproject.com. So you can definitely use the same ones or select the ones you like best. Zeta saying great idea. Well, thanks so much. I'm from India. Wow, cool. Some people had trouble connecting, no worries, but we've just started. So welcome again. In any case, icons, yep, big game changer. One other thing are checklists. I'm a really big fan of checklists, single point checklists, yeah? So something like this, for example, Maria's saying, and students can also add their own. Exactly, this would make a great activity for the students to come up with their own icons to see, yeah, what they actually understand. So, sorry, I was saying checklists are a second resource that I use a lot. And for example, here, the students had to record a video. And this is the checklist I gave them. If you take a look at what's written, you will see that this is a step-by-step breakdown of instructions, but it comes with a little box. I love these little boxes. And so the students first read through the checklist, read through the instructions. And if you see step number 2 says, underline the most important words from each item on the checklist. So I'm sort of forcing them to read through the instructions and make sure they have processed the information. So I gave an example, like we were saying about modeling. You speak only in English, so only in English, I would underline, for at least 1 minute. So only in English, 1 minute. And with this, you get the gist of the first line of instructions. Maria's saying, I love checklists. This is a really beautiful made one. Oh, thank you. I try to make them very simple because they can get very elaborate and then it's off-putting for the students, but just very simple. The main points you want to include, the main instructions the students need to understand. And so step 1, you present the checklist. We read it together. Then students read it individually again. They underline the main keywords. Then they go over the checklist before they do the task, just to understand what they're asked to do. And then they read the checklist again before they submit the task. In this case, before they submit the video. And instruction number 4, step number 4 says, before you submit the video on Flipgrid, read the checklist and tick the boxes that are true for you. So of course, this again makes them go over all the instructions to make sure that they followed every single point, that they meet all the requirements. And of course, if they're not ticking one of the boxes, this means they need to revise their work, they need to go over it again, or they need to add some more detail or change some of the things. And of course, Maria's saying it always draws the attention to the importance of identifying keywords. Exactly. So keywords are really important. This is a reading exercise as well. And so I find rubrics are really helpful to give detailed instructions and also to get students to self-assess their work before they actually submit it. So my question to them is always, is this the best you can do? Did you meet all the requirements? Did you follow all the instructions? It really helps. And then last but not least, another useful resource that works wonders with my students is infographics. I'm a visual learner myself, so I find infographics extremely useful when learning in general. And I find it really helps my students as well. This is the same instructions but in a very visual, in a very simple way, very summarized way. And what I do with my infographics, apart from showing the students, is saving them, posting them on Classroom, for example, in this case, because we use Classroom as a learning platform, and the students can refer back to it in case they have a question, in case of doubt. So this also serves as a sort of route map. Exactly. Mukesh is saying, I'm a visual learner too. I love infographics. I think infographics are harder to make than you would think, because it takes a great deal to actually summarize all the information in like 5 images. You can see there's very little text, some images, and this really helps visual learners. But I think it helps all learners in general, yeah, to get the information summarized. Fiona's saying, seeing is believing for visual learners. Indeed. So yeah, Analia is saying Canva. Exactly. This is created on Canva, so Canva is great for infographics. In any case, this was the first tip. Okay, Maria saying another fantastic idea. I love using infographics as a wrap-up. Exactly. Super. You can use them for both, right? You can use infographics for almost anything, to be honest. Really for all learners. Exactly, Anna. So it's not only for visual learners, but for everyone. All right, so first tip, here it is. Now let's move on to the second tip. Tip number 2. I think it really helps students if you show them the final product, so a sample, an example of the final product, the final task you want them to create. So if we were talking about modeling, so if you also model the final product you want them to create. For example, in this project here, this was from Unit 8 in the Get Involved A2 book. And the task the students were asked to create was to design a 3-holiday plan for you and your friends. This is the task. Some students were really quick to start thinking of ideas. They already had something to talk about. But some students I noticed were a bit slower, didn't really understand a 3-day holiday plan. What does that really mean? I don't know. And so here in the same book, that's why it's really useful. You have a model project. So you have one example of a plan that students could create. And on top of that, this is what I like best. You have a teenage student, basically their same age, presenting their plan, which is what students will have to do at the end. So students get a sample text and somebody else doing the same task they're asked to do. So this really helps them, it helps everyone to visualize what they're expected to do and what the final outcome is supposed to be. So they get a clearer picture of what they have to actually design in this case, yeah, what it really means to create a 3-day holiday plan. Of course, this can help as an example, and other students can have different ideas. They would like to do it in a different way. They would like to elaborate more on it. They would like to add more details. They're totally free to do that. But for those students who are a bit lost or a bit slower, maybe, this really gives them like a safety net, yes, something to fall back on. So, okay, I think that's basically tip number 2. That was quite quick. Moving on to tip number 3. I think you'll all agree with me that in order to be a teacher, we were saying with Nathan earlier, I mean, teachers wear many hats, right? You're a teacher, but you're also, let's say, a big sister, in my case, a sister. You're also like a mom, you're also a therapist, you're a coach, you're many things in one. And one of the things that you need to, one of the qualities you need to have as a teacher is flexibility. Yes, so you need to be flexible, like a yoga instructor, let's say. So what I mean here, flexibility, you as a teacher being flexible with what happens in the class, but also provide flexibility to students. So allow students for choice. It's obvious that students cannot choose everything in the class. My students, for example, would love to watch a film every day. I cannot let them do that. But you can provide for certain choice in some aspects of learning to cater for different learning styles and learning needs. For example, you can be flexible regarding the final product, the outcome of the task, and the format they use. Linda's saying, absolutely agree. Okay. So the idea is to try and be a bit creative, try and be a bit open-minded. Don't just offer one single option, but offer a wide range of options and choice and just flexibility for the students to actually suggest new things. So let's just try this out. This is a project that appears in Get Involved. In Get Involved A2 Plus. And the idea here was for students to make a proposal to get money for a business idea. So basically raising money. And the topic here, the overall topic here was how can teenagers learn about money? So this was one of the overall, the umbrella topic. My question to you, if you could answer through the chat, actually 2 questions. What final product could students create for this project? So to put forward their proposal, what product could they make? And what format could they do it in? What format could they deliver this final product in? Let's see all your answers in the chat. Maria's saying a pitch, totally, a presentation, electronic stuff, raise money to improve something at school. Exactly. How could they put forward their proposal? A letter of presentation, a business proposal, a video pitch, Google Slides, okay? An infographic, a report. Hello from Georgia, Sharina. A videographer, okay, video, sure. A poster. I mean, as you can see, a paper, sure, an ad. A Canva poster, okay? They may do a presentation of the startup, okay? Okay. So a tourist agency, a fair, oh, nice, okay. An Instagram carousel post, a brochure. I mean, you definitely have a group presentation done in class, either orally or on video, poster and presentation, an Instagram ad, a piece of drama, okay, accessories. So lots of ideas here. A TikTok, sure. A formal email. Let me just show you some of the ones that I've come up with. A lot of them you've already mentioned. I came up with a slides presentation, a video, a poster, a leaflet. It could be a paper leaflet or a paper poster or a digital poster. Hi, so hi, Ola. Okay. And so if you notice, all of these proposals and the ones that you suggested, all of these ideas involve different levels of complexity, and they require different sort of skill sets. So they cater for a wide range of students, and they can be appealing to different students being good at different things. So this is my suggestion. Keep your, let's say, tasks a bit more open than just for one choice. And here are some tools. If you decide to do it digitally, we said you could do it on paper. Some of the stuff could be done on paper. Some of the stuff could be done digitally. So if you decide to go digital and you're also working on the students' digital literacy at the same time, here are some of the tools that I most often use with my students. I use Loom for video recording, Screencastify as well for screen recording, Flip. It used to be Flipgrid. And my students still call it Flipgrid. We all call it Flipgrid. This is like a video community, so you could record videos and upload them on a sort of group. We also use Genially, Google Slides, Canva. We're really big on Canva. And so now my question to you, which of these tools do you use most often with your students, if these or any others? And how often do you use them? Maria's saying Genially is probably my most favorite tool, okay? Miro, Canva, and WordWall. Oh, WordWall is really useful as well, it's true. Canva, Google Slides, often, okay. Okay, tools, so great, yeah. Okay, usually use Canva, also a lot of Canva fans here. Story Jumper, oh, this one I don't know. So Wakelet is really good for putting all the tools together, right? Canva, Miro, Padlet. Padlet is really useful as well, it's true. Google Slides, Canva. Maria's saying in almost every lesson. Yeah, I personally use them in every lesson. Plickers is really good too, okay, Padlet. Canva could be easy for some students, exactly, and you can create classes so that your students can be with you in the Canva class. Lucille board, okay. As you can see, I mean, there are many, many options, yeah? So there's a wide variety to choose from. Quizzes, Mentimeter, Genially, okay, that's great. You have plenty of ideas there, so. And students really love Canva, indeed. Yeah, my students love to do everything on Canva. Everything. I mean, life is better on Canva, isn't it? It's more visual. It's more appealing. So, okay, lots of Canva fans here, indeed. All right, so moving on to tip number 4. I haven't seen any questions, so I'm just moving on. Assign roles. This is one of my main sort of mantras. see how you can relate to this. These are Kagan roles, Kagan cooperative roles, and they're taken from this book, which is one of my big reference books called Kagan Cooperative Learning. It's written by Dr. Spencer Kagan and his son, Miguel Kagan. And in chapter 11, you have this summary of a dozen learning cooperatives or cooperative learning roles. You can see very different things that students can do in the class. Maria's saying, I totally agree. Roles are lifesavers, indeed, lifesavers. So my question to you, how familiar are you with roles in general or with Kagan roles specifically? Do you assign roles to your students in your classrooms? Type your answers through the chat. Geraka saying not at all. Lubos, I hope I'm saying your name right. Not at all. Okay, not familiar. Very familiar. Okay, so Maria is very familiar with this. You don't know about it? Well, it's not unfortunate. It's actually fortunate, right? That Petra, I think it is, that you're that you don't know. So now you're learning about them. Never heard of them? Perfect. There's always a first time. Use roles before, but not Kagan roles. Obviously, Kagan roles are not the only roles you can use in class, but they're one of the main reference materials, just to say. I don't work on commission, but I really recommend this book, I have to admit. Never heard of them? Okay, not really, wasn't familiar. Okay, Mohammed saying yes, of course, sure. Darul, never use it, tell us further. Indeed, that's what I'm gonna do right now. Never heard of them, okay. Wow. What I do, Kagan roles, I use them for sort of longer activities. So I don't use Kagan roles for example, think of brainstorm ideas and compare your answers with your partner. I mean, having roles here would take too long and it wouldn't be very productive. But if you're doing a project, for example, or if you're doing an activity for the last 2 or 3 sessions, then Kaggle roles are really useful to distribute the work, to make sure everyone is working, because we know that sometimes when we put students in groups, some students do work and some students don't. And so, yeah, you need to see when roles are useful and when roles are not so useful. Andrea saying you tried before, but it was a bit of a mess. Yes, indeed. The first time you use roles, students need to get familiar with them. And here you can see 12 roles, but let me tell you what I use in class. In my class, I use these 5, the ones I've marked with a little red dot. And so these are the ones that I focus on. I find 12 roles is a bit too much. There's a lot of information to take in. And so I like to focus on just 5 and always sort of keep the same 5 ones so students are familiar with them. You need to introduce them first, and you need to let students know what it is that they need to do for each of the roles. So for example, the encourager, which is actually quite similar to the cheerleader, to be honest, basically encourages teammates, encourages people in the group to participate, make sure everyone is contributing, so it cheers everyone on. So this is a student who is usually enthusiastic, motivated. So you want to assign that role to somebody who's keen. Then the question commander, this is a bit of a funny name, but basically a student who can help the rest of classmates with their questions, or can actually go to the teacher if they need extra help to ask questions. So not everybody is standing up asking questions at the same time, because otherwise, like Andrea was saying, it gets very messy, right? Then another role that I use is the focus keeper. To me, this is key. Somebody who makes sure everybody is on task, everybody doing what they're supposed to be doing. Then the recorder, it's funny because recorder, yeah, I mean, doesn't involve the word write, but it means the person who actually takes notes or makes sure everyone is taking notes, depending on how you do it. And finally, one of my favorite roles, one of my students' favorite roles, is the quiet captain. Basically make sure the voice levels are sort of down in class, nobody's speaking too loudly, nobody's interrupting each other, nobody's basically messing around in the class. And so this particular role, for example, I give usually students who are more talkative, who are rowdier, who get easily distracted, because students tend to take their roles very seriously. If you give them a responsibility, the more specific the task, the more responsibility they're going to take for it, and the more efficient students are going to be, the more work they're going to do. So I had this one student, well, I've had many students like this, but this particular one that I remember, The first one we did roles. I usually cut this little cards in like squares, in paper squares, and I assigned the roles myself like this. And so I assigned this particular student the quiet captain role, and I said, okay, quiet captains need to keep voice levels down, make sure people are participating, but quietly and not too loud, that nobody's interrupting, that nobody's being rowdy or talkative. And so this student, who usually is the one who interrupts, is rowdy, speaks over people, needs to be told to quiet it down, took his role so seriously. He did such a great job. He was monitoring people all the time. Shh, guys, come on, keep it quiet. It was actually really, really funny to see him in action. And what I want to say is that if students are given responsibility, they will take the responsibility very seriously, and they will actually help you with group dynamics in class, because it's true that physically you cannot monitor, let's say, 30 students in the same class, and especially when they're doing group work or project work, things tend to get a bit loud. That's true, right? So okay. Nilgun is saying students should be assigned as a moderator. Exactly. They should be provided with the necessary instructions beforehand. Indeed, students need to be told what each role involves and how they're supposed to do it. And Andrea is saying it can get messy. Yes, students are going to have to get used to it. Yeah, so it doesn't work really, really well the first time. You need to work on the student skills. So, but anyway, just a suggestion, assigning roles, I find a very, very useful tool. And Fiona saying it improves classroom management. Totally, totally. All right, so if there are no more questions, okay. When a student whose voice is so loud that the others are drowned, exactly, Anna's saying, exactly, you need to balance people in the classroom, right? Can it be used in small groups like 5-6 people? No, actually, you could get more roles. If your groups are larger than 5-6 people, you could get more roles. Or you could get 2 students to perform the same role if you'd like. So that's also another option. What if the student doesn't want this role? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ola, for a really good question. The first times I'm the one who assigns the roles because the students are not familiar with this terminology and the idea. But then as we do projects other times and students are more familiar with this, I give them the 5-6 cards and they distribute the roles amongst themselves. What's funny is that often they want to have the same roles that I had assigned to them before because I try to take their personality into account. And sometimes they don't. So, okay, once you have your role card, you work on the task assigned, you just play your role. No, you do the work and you play your role at the same time. Yeah, so everything together. All right, so last but not least, I think we have about a minute left. Tip number 5, to me, this is basically the most important one. Tap into your students' interest. This is key for every teacher to do in their class in general. I mean, as humans, not only students, but as humans, the more interesting we find something, the more engaged we are, right? This is how psychology works in general. Teen psychology, but human psychology in general. I think you will all agree with me. So it is essential to get your students, to get to know your students, to see what makes them tick, what interests them, what motivates them, what sort of makes them happy. And usually what I do is I give them a questionnaire at the beginning of the year to see what kind of hobbies they have, what free time activities they do, what their families are like, if they watch videos, if they watch TikTok, if they watch what their favorite music is, almost anything. And so this information, Maria is saying this is extremely important. Exactly. This information I use to select projects that I think they will like. And at the same time, it also helps them to get to know them better. So it's a two-way sort of street. Let me show you an example of one of the most successful projects that I've ever done. The question here, the topic here was, what's the best new skill you've ever learned and how can you teach it to others? And the task was create a tutorial to teach classmates a new skill. In my case, sorry, the timer's off. In my case, what I did was not create a video tutorial, but create a live tutorial. So they gave a presentation live to the rest of the class. And of course, apart from giving them the instructions, I modeled the project and I did 2 examples. One of the first examples was similar to the one in the book because I'm a language enthusiast. And so I taught them how to say, hi, my name is and I'm 16, 15 years old, in several different languages, in the languages I speak. And it was really funny because, of course, every language sounds different. And they were very surprised to see that I don't only speak Catalan, which is my mother tongue, and Spanish, also my mother tongue, and English, but I speak other different languages which are not related. And it was great for them to see that some languages are completely different and some languages are actually a lot more similar than they thought. So this was really cool. And then another example that I gave them, this was with the older students, is swing dancing. I used to swing dance. I used to dance Lindy Hop. And so I brought some of the Lindy Hop, my favorite Lindy Hop music to class, and I taught them the basic Lindy Hop step, very basic. Of course, you can imagine this was a bit chaotic. It was. We went to the gym, and so I was teaching them how to dance, boys and girls together, everyone together. This is a step that you dance on your own. And so it was really funny to get students in a sort of a different setting. This was the gym, a non-academic setting. This was dancing, music. Everybody has their own rhythm, their own skills. But it was a lot of fun for students to see that apart from being a teacher, I also have my own hobbies, for example, swing dancing. And it really helped us to bond and to create this sort of bond beyond the classroom. And what I was saying about students getting to know students through projects was great, because some of the students, for example, one of the students did origami. Another student did karate. So we were learning karate moves in the gym. Another student showed us how to draw portraits. And this was a very shy student that rarely participates in class. And when she gave us, when she gave us this tutorial, I was amazed at her drawing skills. And this was something that I had absolutely no idea of. To be honest, nobody in the class knew this. So this was a way of actually discovering the talents in my class and getting to know students a lot better. So bonding with them from a different sort of angle. And of course, the role reversal. I was also the student. I was learning to do the karate moves. I was learning to do the origami. I was also drawing, which I'm actually terrible at. And so it was great for a bit of a role reversal. Exactly, perfect way to give them confidence. Indeed, I was saying, look, I'm good at languages. This is one thing I'm good at. You may not be good at languages, you may be good at something else that I'm terrible at. So everybody has their own, their own talents, their own skills, and you don't need to be a genius to teach something to somebody else. So that's another thing. So inspiring to see your learners. Oh, thank you. Exactly. So how many lessons did it take, Irina? This took quite a few lessons, I have to say, because we were first giving the instructions, brainstorming ideas. They were working on a text. We also created a page, a wiki page, for them to actually give the steps of the things that we were teaching, and included videos, and they included images, and then they did their presentation. They gave the presentation to the class. So that was really cool. Okay. Oh, thank you, Svid. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing your name right. It's Davida. Okay, thank you. Great presentation. Okay, so just one final minute as a wrap up. Things that we've mentioned: clear visual detail instructions. These are key in any way you can. Model text, samples, giving examples, providing yourself as a model, giving a choice in the final product and in the format. Also assigning roles for everyone to have something specific to do in the class, taking your students' interest into account, and using projects as a way of getting to know your students as well. So basically, that's it from me. I hope I wasn't rushing too much. If you want to get in touch, you can find me on Instagram at APAC365, or check out APAC's website, or you can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter or X at Usoa Sol. So if you have any questions, I hope you enjoyed the session. Thanks so much for the feedback. Hi, Nathan. Nice to see you again.
Hello. Yep, good to see you too. Thank you so much. It's such a practical and such a fun session. Like so fun going on in there.
Yeah.
I think the flurry of hearts popping up across the screen is an indicator that we're having such a good time and really loving the ideas, the tips, the way that you've gone through how you use the projects themselves. I was trying to look for some questions. I mean, you covered so many different aspects of using it. The tips there are really useful in themselves. I think probably one question that people would probably have is, when you use projects, I think a lot of teachers have quite low-level students, or perhaps very younger learners. Is it okay for them to use some L1 do you use it for instructions sometimes? Do you use it during the project? Do you allow it? Do you not allow it?
Oh, totally. I mean, to be honest, I'm a language enthusiast, and one of the things that I like most about languages is the connections. And for example, Catalan and Spanish are very similar. So for Spanish speaking people to learn Catalan, it's very easy. And so I always try to highlight, look, this is similar to our own language. Most of my students are Catalan speaking, or at least Spanish speaking as well. And so we try to make connections between the languages. And I think this is a great way of learning. So I totally allow L1 in my lesson. Obviously, I aim for as much L2 as possible, but I don't forbid L1 because I find it as a resource. It's really useful as a resource. And what I try to do is to get students to translate the instructions that I give, to expose them to as much English as possible. But I try to use their L1 because they're thinking in their L1. I'm thinking in my L1. As another valuable resource for them to actually understand instructions, understand tasks, to want to learn, to communicate. And once the students see the connections, like, oh, so this is similar to English. Oh, wow, this is similar to Catalan. Oh, wow, look. So it's a lot easier because you do learn by making connections, don't you? So I think this is a natural language learning process.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love project work. I love using project work with my students. I think it's a really nice way, as you said, to build rapport with your students, but also help them to build rapport between each other. Sometimes students come from different backgrounds, you've got different personalities, different characteristics, different interests. And I think you can start to bring them into the classroom in a really natural way.
Exactly.
Students can then build rapport, like, as you were saying, feel more confidence, feel more empowered with the language itself. And it's not just learning, to pass tests or for the assessment.
Exactly.
They're actually learning through having a good time, and they start to absorb that language, and they're using it in a meanulful way, right? Which is
exactly. So basically it brings language to life. We're using English to do something that we like, and it really also helps to open their minds as well, because they're when you're suggesting things, they're learning things from each other, not just from you as well. So it takes the pressure off you sometimes. That your students have many interesting things to say, and I'm always saying, look, I don't know everything. Obviously, you know a lot more things than I do in a lot of aspects, and I think students love this sort of role reversal, teaching you. For example, my students have taught me a lot about emojis, what each emoji means, and they're like, oh no, we don't use this emoji. The thumbs up, this is only for parents. This is only for older people. I'm like, oh wow, okay. So for example, this I didn't know.
That's us. We use the thumbs up emoji.
Exactly, I use the thumbs up. So I'm like, oh, so this is not how you do it. Okay, no, okay. Or what a lot of things mean, or how they use Instagram as opposed to how I use Instagram, or how they use TikTok, which I have no idea of. So it's great for them to actually want to communicate this and want to use the language to say something that it really matters to them. And I want to show them that it really matters to me too. So I'm interested. I'm truly interested, and I think it really shows. So
yeah, and I love to get involved. I just spent just over a week in Morocco, and we were doing teacher training. I was with one of the authors for Get Involved, so I've seen quite a lot of it recently. And in fact, if anybody's teaching B2, there is actually a project where you get to design your own emoji, which is such a fun unit to do with the students. They get to design one and give rationales about why it is they've decided to choose this brand new emoji. And I think the projects in Get Involved are so up to date, and they're so fun for the students. Teens really, I think, can really connect with the
exactly.
Yeah,
this is what we were saying exactly with icons, that students can suggest their own icons. Because the way we think, and I'm saying we as a generation, is different from the way younger generations think, right? So the symbols, what each thing represent, what each thing connects with, I think is actually really, really interesting.
Yeah, it really is. I've actually got one other question, because we've got a little bit of time. What about, and again, this is thinking about it from the perspective of teachers that I've worked with or that I know. If you're doing project work, a common thing that I've heard from teachers is, well, what happens if they finish at different times? One group is like, done, we're done, we want to present. And the others are like, well, we still need more time. Do you have that problem, or have you had that challenge? And what do you do to?
Totally. Students work at different paces all the time. So what I tried to do is for projects to have this sort of flexible component, that some students can do more, can take the project further, and some students can do, let's say, what is required, and that's it. So if you notice in my checklist, the first one, there were some extra additional components that fast finishers in this case, or students who work at a faster pace, or students who are more efficient, because some groups just organize themselves really well and they just finish earlier, can also do. So to expand this project, to give this project a lot more detail, maybe to illustrate it more. When we did this website with the tutorials, I was saying, okay, why don't you find already existing tutorials to add? Why don't you find, make a glossary of important terms? For example, I made a glossary of Lindy Hop terms. So back step, something like this. And so students can get a lot more engaged and can go a bit more in depth than other groups who may be doing something a bit more basic, if you like, but still doing the project and still participating in their own way. I think that's the beauty of projects, that it enables students to sort of contribute at different sort of, let's say, depths, different levels.
And I guess that's confidence building in itself, right? That they can do that, they can keep going. I guess that's almost the benefit of project work, right? Is if you think about course book materials, they're very kind of closed-ended. Like once you finished, you finished. It's hard. You've got to kind of create new tasks to kind of give them new things to do, to keep practicing perhaps. But like I said, a project is open-ended. Keep reviewing. Which bits of the project could you go back and review and improve for the next time? And the more they practice, the better they get. You kind of mentioned that, right? That
Exactly. And also another thing I do, which is really useful, is peer-to-peer tutoring. So these students who are finished can go to other groups and say, hi there, how can I help? Is there something I can do to help? And often the students in the group take this peer student a lot more seriously than the teacher themselves, right? Because this is like a one-to-one sort of help. And the students who are there helping, the tutors know exactly what problems the students had because they had them themselves as well. So sometimes I feel peer-to-peer works really well. And I say, okay, so could you go and help out this other group? Could you, I mean, I have a lot of native speakers of English, for example, in class. Obviously, these are more efficient students because English is their mother tongue. And so I use this as an asset. Okay, this is not a problem. On the contrary, this works to my advantage. It's great because I have a lot of mini teachers in the class. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, nice, good. And again, building empathy skills, all of those soft skills that go into
exactly.
So thank you so much. I'm pretty sure from just these 45 minutes that your students absolutely love you and your classroom. I'm sure they have the most wonderful time in your lessons. I know you're doing this a few times today, so we'll let you go and have a rest for now, but thank you so much again for the presentation, for answering a few questions, and for, I think, the level of engagement in the chat box. You were kind of answering as you were going.
Yeah, it's going crazy.
Which is fantastic. And lots of people agree with you. Again, I can see 1 million emojis popping up there. So thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you again this afternoon.
Thanks so much for having me. Enjoy the rest of the day, be it morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. And yeah, see you later.
Right, I'm going to try the screen again. Oh, I cannot. I think you need to go into the backstage area so that I can.
Exactly. I'm just going to stop sharing. Exactly. And just leave, right?
You can just go, the backstage.
Oh, backstage. Super. See you later, Nathan.
Thank you so much, Usoa.
Thank you.
Okay, good, amazing. What a fantastic presentation. So let's move forward if I can. Oops. Okay, so as you saw from the examples that Usoa was using, she was drawing on lots and lots of examples from our teen course book or high school product, which is Get Involved, which is a really wonderful product. I've just spent, as I said, a week in Morocco with teachers using Get Involved. Their teenagers love the content, the projects. There's loads of things in there. There's a project in every unit, and they're all very, very different. So go and have an explore.